Hello, my name is Shaloma. In July of 2015, I was diagnosed with Burkitt's leukemia and lymphoma, which is an extremely fast-growing and aggressive type of cancer. My first symptom was when my jaw was hurting really badly, and it would sometimes hurt and then sometimes go away, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And then a couple days later, my leg started hurting really badly, and I became really tired and slept a lot, which is weird because I never took naps. And so finally we went to the doctor, and they diagnosed me with cancer. It was only 3 weeks from my first symptom till I was almost gone. They said I only had a couple days if I hadn't gone to the hospital. Pretty soon I got a Hickman line, which was a port going to my heart, and I got a feeding tube, which I really hated. And I had to put a saran wrap over my line because it couldn't get wet to take a shower. Each round of chemo was for about 5 days to a week. Then I would go home, then I would get a fever and have to go back in for about 3 more days. Then I would go home for about 2 or 3 days and then do it over again. Each round of chemo was for 3 weeks, and I spent about 2 weeks of every round in the hospital. The nurses and doctors and other staff were the ones who made my experience the absolute best it could be. I can remember one time having the worst headache of my life, and my nurse then was Katie, and she ran and did everything she could to make my headache go away. When my siblings would come visit, they'd like to ride bikes around the hospital, and my nurse, Katie, one time, she was fixing my brother's bike chain because it broke. The doctors were also really nice. Dr. Fawcett came to check on me often when I was inpatient, and he would tell me jokes, and I would tell him jokes too. Dr. Cooper I saw mostly at the beginning of my treatment because he saw the most sick patients. Dr. Ketterall came to check on me a lot and started working at Children's the same time I was diagnosed. We began together and went through treatment together. Dr. Amy Sherrod told me cancer would be just a blip on my radar and then I'd go back to normal life. She knew I could beat cancer, and so did I. Learning that you're going to have to spend 6 months in and out of the hospital with chemo being pumped in your heart is not easy to hear at age 9, but my experience wasn't what I thought it would be. I had a lot of fun at Children's. I put the bed slanted and used my lunch tray to slide down it. The nurses got a little bit scared. But, I also like to hide in the cupboard. There's a picture. I would put the bed up really high just for fun, and I even decorated my IV pool and named her Emma. I got to watch the Blue Angel show from my hospital window too. A couple months into my treatment, I spent my 10th birthday inpatient. The hospital clowns came and sang happy birthday to me. It's actually not that hard, or they sang it to me backwards, and that's not that hard. Happy birthday. They also decorated my room with toilet paper. The nurses let me explore. They had a playroom in the hospital. I would find Legos there and bring them back to my room and build them. I got stuffed animals from the gift shop. In March 2016, I finished treatment. It's been about 7 years since I finished. Now I go back for checkups and visit nurses and say hi to them if I have time and encourage them that what they're doing helps kids be healthy again like me.
You'll hear a little bit more from her in just a second. I'm Shaloma's mom, and I wanted to hop up here just to tell you how my perspective is a little different than hers. My memory involves 6 months of just trying to make it through. So she has very many positive memories of Children's Hospital. Anytime we go back for a checkup or anything, she gets all excited. It's a really positive place for her to be. She wants to go visit nurses and doctors and say hi to everybody. So my memory involves more of this kind of thing. This is a picture of the 30 syringes that we would go through in just the first 24 hours of when she would come home from the hospital. I would put a lot of those through her feeding tube and just hope I could get them into her while she was asleep. So when she was home, it meant that I just didn't sleep. It was pretty much a non-stop affair. So there was that. I can also tell you about the chemo she had was the strongest they could give her without killing her. Her type of cancer was one of the most aggressive cancers there is, super fast growing, and so they treat it very, very aggressively, which meant she had incredibly strong reactions to the chemo also, such as vomiting 18 times in 1 hour, and at one point she was in the ICU with about a 15% chance of survival. And that was just from the infection she had, nothing to do with the cancer. So that was kind of a side effect from her immune system, just being completely obliterated. So it wasn't really a day-by-day thing. It was more of a, let's try to make it the next 5 minutes a lot of the time. So, and I just want to point out back there, sitting down is my grandfather, who's Shaloma's great-grandfather. He's trying to stand up. He's 98 years old, and so when Shaloma had cancer, she was 10 years old. Now she's 17, so 7 years ago. He used to say, I just hope I can live long enough to see what she ends up doing. She's obviously supposed to be here for a reason. So here he is, seeing what she's doing. She's doing it. She lives a normal 17-year-old life. She does taekwondo, track. She just went to an ROTC vault today, right before coming here. So, yeah, but we wouldn't be here except for the enormous support network that we had, all the amazing staff and doctors, nurses at Children's, and people like you guys. I wouldn't have been able to put all of my focus on her like I did if not for people supporting us. I didn't have to think about how we would pay for her treatment at all the entire time. And I just don't know if I could have pulled her through without having that worry out of the way. So really, we're here because we want to help other kids and their families be where we are today because of you guys. So thank you.
of these pictures are from when I had cancer, like this one. That one was just a couple weeks ago, but Children's Hospital kept me healthy enough to keep being able to do Taekwondo. I tested for my red belt a day before one of my rounds, and my accounts were almost low enough to need a blood transfusion. This is my story, at least what I remember of when I think of my time in the hospital. Children's Hospital didn't just save my life, but they went the extra mile. They helped make a really hard treatment something that I would learn and grow from. Seattle Children's is a huge part of making me who I am today. Thank you for being here tonight and supporting other kids like me.